So I think the next phase in this endeavor will be to get, all these knobs and controls off and get this face off so I can get to the potentiometers behind it and put all this stuff in a safe place so it doesn't get damaged. These aren't getting any younger and they're not getting any more commonly available. If anything, they're only going to get more rare and they're going to get more valuable. So I've got to treat this with very careful stuff. I'm terrible with coming up with English words on the spot. I'm just very bad at it. Always have been. Anyways, the other thing I've noticed is I wish I could get these boards out and clean them. But I can't because of just sheer how many wires are just connected to these boards. Not to mention trying to keep up with where they all go. And I haven't printed out the service manual for this thing yet, so I need to do that. But before I do that, I've got to plan my method of attack here. The other thing is I've noticed that some of these transistors in here are very corroded. Especially on the power amp stage here. There's some serious corrosion in here. Let's see if I can get down in there. I mean, there's some green crusties on that stuff. Could be normal. Not entirely certain. I didn't order any of these transistors yet down in here. I ordered everything I needed to recap it, minus these, because these are hard to find, and the ones you do find are stupid expensive. So there's probably $100 in caps or more right there alone. So I'll worry about that later. But I did get all the other small capacitors that go everywhere else around here, and I ordered all of the transistors for this board here because these are notorious for causing issues. And there is a JFET in here that's used as a voltage regulator, which are known, or like they're 2SK30s, and they're known to be troublesome as well in these amps. So apparently there is a diode mod you can do to these, from what I've seen online, that will allow you. I've never personally encountered the problem, but other people have, and there's a diode mod that you can use to replace those with. I don't know if they're bad in this unit. I'm going to double check everything first, and then we'll replace them if necessary. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave them alone. But otherwise, I am going to replace all these other transistors. Plus, I bought some heat sinks. I got to see if I can move that little guy out of the way. But I bought some heat sinks to go on these transistors. That way, I can help better the heat dissipation anyways. So, I got to figure out how to get this board out. I wish I could clean these boards because, as you can see, they're quite nasty. But there's not a whole lot I can do about it. I really can't get in there, and I'm not going to wash this whole thing. That would be utterly stupid. Let's just pressure wash a rare receiver. No, not going to do that. Meanwhile, plus if I get all this stuff out of the way, I can get deoxit down in here. That stuff right there. Get deoxit in all these controls and switches and other fun things. Got to figure out how to tighten that up because it's fairly loose. So, anyways, I think I've rambled on enough. Let's start getting some of this stuff done. I'm going to start pulling out parts, and we're going to start recapping this thing. I probably won't do a video on all the recapping because it's just drawn out, repetitive, tedious. Pluck out a cap, put another one in. Pluck out a cap, put another one in. There's no point. So, I'll pick up the camera and record details of any weird failures or anything like that, but other than that, I'm not going to record recapping. So anyways, moving along, let's get stage 2 of this complete. I got the face off, and that came off relatively without issue. So now I can further inspect this volume pot. Yep, it looks like this nut is definitely loose. So there's 2 set screws, which you can see the marks. There's 2 set screws. That knob to come off. That's the one thing you got to pay attention to. Other than that, there was a nut here and a nut here that had to come off, and then the whole face came off once all the screws were out on the parameters, and the face is sitting over there. The other thing I noticed too is that fluorescent indicator tube is heavily burned in. I mean, look at it. It's kind of hard to tell on camera, but you can see it's like brown, and it progressively gets lighter until you got up here what's pearly white. The auxiliary looks really white, and then look at the tuner, nice and brown. Phono looks white, tape looks kind of brown. Tuner looks like tuner is used the most. Makes me wonder if someone didn't use this in a garage as a garage radio or something. I don't know. But looking at this tube, that's a lot of hours on this thing. So I didn't plug it in because I don't typically try to just plug in things like this, but I'm going to bet you that thing's weak. So I might have to come up with a solution for this. I don't know. It won't be exact. I might put a digital indicator in here that's a dot matrix display and then render all of this out with a microcontroller. I don't know yet. I'll figure that out later. If I have to do that, I have to do that. Because I can just about guarantee you I can't buy that tube anymore. But I got ways around that. Anyways, I guess at this point, you know, there's corrosion and stuff like that. I tried to remove this board. I took this bracket out, 2 screws there, 2 screws there, and there's just too many wire wraps on here. I mean, it's too bad. So I'm gonna have to just work with this board in here as it is. So at this point, it looks like it's pretty much down to the nitty gritty. It's time to just start pulling parts and replacing and recapping. I'm literally at that point. So I've got all the transistors and capacitors swapped out except for one, which is this guy right here, because that is a 1UF at 63 volt, and somehow I missed it on my cap list. I got plenty of 1UF 50 volts, but there's a reason why they put a 63 in there instead of a 50. Probably because this rail is closer to 55. So I need to get that capacitor on my list, on my ordered. So that's going to delay me a little bit. The other thing is the transistors, okay? There's 2 in the very back here, and there's 1 there and 1 there. Those are the 2 SK30s, and I haven't changed those yet because I got to get clarity on how to change those since they don't make those anymore. And on that same topic, a bunch of these transistors are no longer available, so you have to use substitutions. And there's tons of lists online and audio enthusiast forums and stuff like that. And I went through most of them. I compared, contrast, stuff like that, just to make sure the list was accurate. And so far, it seems to be okay. But there's one thing you got to pay very, very close attention of, and what I've noticed is the PNP substitutions are reverse polarity. The base is on the left instead of the right on some of these, or something like that. So when I pull them out, since this board is dirty, when I pull them out, I make sure that I make notation of where it's facing me, if it's facing me or if it's facing away from me, and then I double check with the meter which side the base is on, if it's left or right side. So for example, over here, my base is right side towards me. Then I grab the replacement transistor and measure it, and that's when I noticed it was reverse polarity. So I have to reverse which way this face is in. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind when you're substituting parts like that. Also, while working on this thing, there's nothing better than the smell of dead fish and rat feces. Oh my God. This thing had a nest in it at one point because all that crap that's on the board is actually rat feces, and it stinks quite bad when you heat it up. That's probably why, if you look at some of these transistors here, look how badly they're corroded. I mean, that's pretty bad. It's leaking up into the die. Yeah, some of these are really bad. I mean, anyway, so all those have been pulled and replaced. I went ahead and did myself a favor. These transistors run warm as they are, so I went ahead and put heat sinks on there and some thermal compound, which you kind of see it oozing out a little bit. So now those power transistors have a heat sink, and hopefully we can dissipate the heat energy away from them a little bit. The only concern I have is how close some of these caps are, but they were in fairly close proximity anyway, so I got to be careful of that. I want to see how hot these things get. But anyways, so I got the 2 SK30s left to go, and I have this capacitor here that I got to get on order. So that's going to that's going to sideshow this a little bit, or railroad this a little bit. So I'm going to end this part 2 here, and hopefully we'll pick this back up when I get the rest of the parts. I might go ahead and start looking at these and getting these on order, because they're looking pretty nasty too. So as far as I'm aware, I double checked these in the last video and there was no shorts, so the power stage is probably okay, but I don't want to take any chances, because I know for a fact the power transistors aren't made anymore either. So, and I don't feel like re-drilling heat sinks to mount a different style like a TO247. I don't feel like doing that. So anyways, if you watched it to the end, thank you very much. Feel free to leave a comment if you have one, and we'll be back again next time.